Hi everyone, this is Balázs from RacingBrick. This is my first review from the 2025 LEGO Technic lineup, featuring the 42202 Ducati Panigale V4 S. If this motorcycle looks somehow familiar to you, you are not wrong, because we already had a Ducati Panigale V4 in 2020, the R version of the previous generation, in a much smaller scale. The new one joins the family of 1/5 scale models, as indicated on the box, with 1603 pieces and a price of €200 or dollars. By the way, don't forget to check out my cool new t-shirts, they are linked below. I've extended the sale, it's a great way to support the channel and you still have a chance to get some cool Christmas gifts. On the back of the box you can see another view, the dimensions and some of the features along with the real bike. Ducati fans will obviously go for this one, but will the building experience or the technical solutions of this set be new enough for a Technic fan who has already built the Yamaha and the BMW? Let's find out. There are 12 numbered bags in the box, one unnumbered bag with a few more parts, 2 gigantic tires and 2 rims. And this colorful new envelope that looks like it was made from recycled paper, I've never seen that before. Normally manuals come in a thicker white envelope, interesting. Inside we find the hefty manual and the sticker sheet. This one doesn't have too many stickers, but apparently the display plug isn't printed for this set, too bad. The manual begins with the side-by-side photos of the real Ducati and the LEGO version. You can look for similarities or differences, I'll leave it up to you. The next page shows the real bike again, with some information about the new model. Then a bit more about the Italian design and a nice timeline of the different Ducati motorcycles with the 2 Panigale V4s at the end, which are apparently different models with the same name. That's a bit strange. Here are some close-ups of the LEGO version, and as a nice surprise we see Uwe Wabra, the legendary Technic designer, on the other side, giving some insight into the design process. And that's it, here's the parts list if you are interested. Now let's start building. Apparently we begin with the gearbox and the chain needs to be added very soon. We use the new generation gearbox elements that debuted in the Yamaha with a very similar stepper mechanism and the same azure changeover cylinders with the letters and numbers. It's a bit tricky to fit this in while filming. There you go, the rotation is limited by the lime beam. Here comes the other side, this rubber goes here, and with this round tile added, the first bag is finished. We now add this tricky frame to the assembly we built so far. As you can see, it's using the relatively new cam pieces that were introduced in the smaller Kawasaki set. By adding these pieces, we finally fix the wobbliness, as the construction now feels much more stable. A few things have to be in the right position to push this cross-axle through, that's the end of the second bag. And now we can test the gearbox. So, that's first gear. There's nothing below that, the pistons run the fastest at a fixed wheel speed. Then comes neutral, here the engine isn't supposed to run, there seems to be some internal friction moving the cams in this position. Then comes the second gear, and finally third. When we go back, second gear comes again, neutral, at least on paper, and then first again. This neutral gear is strange, you don't need much force to stop the axle, but apparently the driving rings still engage a little bit. We'll see if the engine runs in this gear or not when we add all the parts. I think this is the first time these new smaller pistons are paired with the classic, rounded pistons. This is how they are assembled. In the previous sets, we mostly put round tiles on the smaller pistons, and the round ones were used for many years with these connecting rods. This is quite an interesting construction. You can see how the pistons are attached to the cams, and now we can see how the engine will run. The assembly of the engine is the first new and truly unique experience in this build. It doesn't stop with the engine blocks, it's a pretty cool design, I have to admit. We had some pipes, then the blocks on the other side, and now we can test the gears again. Okay, it only moves a tiny bit in neutral, but if we compare it to first gear, I think the difference is quite significant. We quickly built a simple stand that will help us with further assembly. This is the same sturdy shock absorber we saw on the Yamaha with the yellow spring, it's really strong. It's a bit tricky to find the right position of this assembly and connect it with the cross-axle. Some funky geometry comes into play here, and the first panel fairings of the build appear, and they are mounted in a very special position, looking nice and smooth. More body panels, then comes a rather large system assembly, and here's our first sticker to apply. The instructions are a bit misleading as they show the sticker at an odd angle, but when you apply it you can actually rotate it, so don't worry about positioning. We are starting to build a swing arm, and now it's time to attach the top end of the shock absorber. There's another parts alignment challenge here, and now we add the massive pearl gold shock absorbers, the same ones from the Yamaha again, mounted in a pretty cool way. Now comes the huge rear tire with the rim. Make sure you check the orientation in the instructions to mount them correctly, at least the way the instructions tell you. Motorcycle fans will correct us anyway if LEGO got it wrong. The same goes for the front wheel. Don't build this section on autopilot because it's tricky. At first I put it together like this with two similar panel fairings, then I didn't know why it didn't fit like in the instructions and what was holding it on at all, and it took me a minute or two to figure out that you have to use the even smaller panel fairings on one end that have a cross axle hole, and now it fits properly. It's all in the correct position now, and we've got a couple more panels to push in place. This is the assembly of the front fender. It's probably not the prettiest, but at least it's there. We'll add more details to this section. With this set you get a whole range of different red panel fairings, like this inverted one, which was previously only available in one set in black. Here's the brand new number 7 connector from the G500, which unfortunately isn't recolored. Apparently it will be hidden. It would have been nice if it had come in a more versatile color like red or black. These are the brand new inverted panels numbered 42 and 43. The assembly goes here on the side. We get two more of the number 7 connector piece. The front assembly still looks a bit strange. Here comes the dashboard, it's a sticker of course, then these big panel fairings. We add more details to the front, then comes the new part for the windshield, which is protected in a separate bag. This is a 1x1 sticker, which I'm really not a fan of. Apparently Ducati doesn't deserve any prints. This time there are more panels with bigger stickers, and then there are these parts that probably symbolize the lights. Now the front looks much better, but I have to make sure the lights stick out. Here are the handlebars, this design looks familiar. And now the parts from the last bag that make up the fuel tank. This looks like a tricky assembly with even more inverted panels and stickers. It's a bit of a pain to get everything lined up correctly, but once it is in place, we secure it at this end as well. All that's missing now are a few small details such as the stickered fuel cap, a few extra pieces here and there, including at the rear, and a bit of yellow on the side. This is the kickstand, it works well, and the last items are added to the stand. Now comes the gigantic sticker for the plug, which is literally impossible to apply without air bubbles. I'm not sure why only a few sets earn the new printed version. Anyway, here is our finished build. So it is big, impressive and very red. I like the paneling all around. Red is thankfully one of the brighter colors where the background of the sticker isn't very different from the plastic. It's not the same, but under normal lighting conditions the difference isn't distracting. Here are the two Ducatis side by side. I'm sure you can see why the fans wanted a bigger and more detailed version. And here it is together with the other two big boys. They have a lot of components in common, but of course there are also big differences. I guess at this point it is really about the brand preference, but I think I will choose based on build experience and looks. As for the functions, you could already see most of them during building. There is, of course, steering, front and rear suspension, and the gearbox with the engine, which is driven by the rear wheel via a chain. Let's take another look at the gears. Here's first, then neutral, second, and third. I think it's great that the pistons aren't covered this time, so we can at least see that something is going on there. So what about neutral? Well, it's not completely stationary, but for most people it will probably be fine. I'm not going to compare it section by section to the real one, it looks fine to me overall. I'm glad to see the engine, and I'm sure some of you won't like the bright blue gear sticking out here. For me, the panels around the windshield is a bit more problematic. There are large gaps here and you have to be careful with the lights as they easily disappear under the surrounding panels. Coming back to the three bikes, how different is the Ducati? It has the new gearbox parts that were already on the Yamaha, it has the new engine parts from the smaller Kawasaki, so we can say that from a technical point of view and as a part spec, it could be the best choice. I was a bit scared of the building because I thought it would remind me a lot of the older models, but I really enjoyed it. The gearbox doesn't offer anything new compared to the Yamaha, that's true, but the engine was probably the most exciting section. And now for the price. It's €200 or dollars, and with the current Double Insider points promotion you get 10% back in points, so it's practically €180 or dollars. The BMW had more parts, but the price on Lego.com is €250. The Yamaha with significantly less parts than the Ducati is €230 or $240. Of course, you can get the Yamaha from other retailers for as little as 160 euros, so we can assume that the Ducati will be available at this price or even cheaper after its release, but at the moment, with the current promotion and the gift, it's not such a bad deal as a pre-order. So folks, as the third iteration of this series, it's a solid build from a technical standpoint. It has a functional gearbox, you can see what's going on in the engine this time, which is good. It has some interesting new parts, some visual flaws here and there, and no prints at all. But if you are into motorcycles, if you like Ducati, or just want a large-scale build on two wheels, this seems like a good choice. Please share your thoughts in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe with notifications, because there will be more exciting LEGO videos coming soon. See you next time, bye bye.